Good evening and welcome to the January 20th, 2020 regularly scheduled meeting. If you would mind silencing your cell phones, and we'll start by joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Rausch, please take roll.
President McFarland?
Here.
Vice President Singer?
Here.
Secretary Rausch is here. Treasurer Fredell?
Here.
Member Baker?
Here.
Member Blasy?
Here.
Member Lauderbach?
Here.
7 present.
Okay. So we've had a changing of the guard, and this is my first night at the helm, so please bear with me while I fumble through this. This is, I want to note before we get into the consent agenda, it is Board Appreciation Month, and I just want to take a second before we begin to tell you all thank you. I really appreciate your service. This isn't always easy to do. It requires time away from our families, time away from your families, a lot of hard work behind the scenes in reviewing materials, in going to committee meetings, and we don't always get along, but we excel at civil discourse, and we always arrive at the conclusion that's best for our kids, and that's what we're here to do. So thank you all very much. We've got a great meeting tonight, so we're going to move forward with the consent agenda. We have item 2.1, which is approval of the minutes from December 16th, 2019. 2.2, we have a resignation. Mr. William Qualls, paraprofessional in the Transportation Department, has announced his resignation effective December 20th, 2019. We have item 2.3, which is payment of the school bills, which, Brad, we've discussed. We're going to move to item 3.7. Then we have item 2.4, which is approval of legal payments from the Trustee law firm in the amount of $2,400 as a January 2nd, 2020 annual retainer. So before we approve the consent agenda, can I get a motion to move item 2.3, removing that from the consent agenda to item 3.7?
So moved.
Any support?
Support.
Any discussion other than we'll move it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 2.3 will become item 3.7, be revisited down the road. Okay, now we'll move to, I'll take a motion to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay.
I'm sorry, that was supported by Ms. Singer?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay.
I did have one quick question. We went pretty quick there.
Sorry.
That's the retainer for Troon. Do we also have one for Lusk? We don't?
No.
No? Okay.
So you get benefits for that from Truant, and that they give us law updates and discounted rate, and they're predominantly the ones we do. So only one retainer.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I forgot
That's
to
all right.
ask for discussion after the motion. All right, so we're good. Moving on to item 3.1, Shining Stars. Mike.
Our first shining star today is Karen Dastic. If Karen would come up and join me for an awkward moment where I read about you, Karen, a little bit. So, Karen joined the NPS team in 2012 as a media center paraprofessional at Central Middle School. In 2013, she moved to Jefferson Middle School to assist Jefferson Husky staff and students as a media center paraprofessional. Karen earned her Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Michigan in 1998. Karen was nominated for the Shining Star by an NPS staff member and a community member. Among their comments were the following. Karen is an incredible paraprofessional in her role at the Media Center at Jefferson Middle School. She is often the paraprofessional that others turn to if they need assistance in the media centers. But what is so striking to me is the way in which Karen works with her students. It is clear that she respects students in the use of the Media Center, and she is very helpful when it comes to participating and satisfying readers' needs. Her students and staff are fortunate to have such a professional resource in their building. Karen Dastic is beyond amazing and goes out of her way to put students first to make sure they succeed in every way possible. Karen has implemented an extracurricular reading incentive program to encourage students to read about books and have fun while competing with each other. Prizes are awarded to the winning team. Students absolutely love this program and look forward to it every school year. Karen is always reading, researching, and purchasing new award-winning books and references materials for the library that are relevant for our students' interests and needs. We are so lucky to have such a caring resource working directly with our students every day. Karen is very deserving of the MPS Shining Star. Congratulations.
Thanks for beyond amazing.
Our second shining star is Jerry Stagel. Jerry would come up. Same awkward moment, Jerry. Jerry's an elementary teacher at Plymouth Elementary, where she has taught since joining the MPS team in 2016. Before coming to MPS, Jerry spent 8 years as an elementary teacher at the International Academy of Saginaw. Jerry graduated from Saginaw Valley State University with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in elementary education in 2007 and earned her Master's of Education in Principalship from SVSU in 2019. Ms. Stagel was nominated for the Shining Star by MPS parents. Among their comments were the following. Ms. Stagel works hard to make sure all students feel safe and loved in her classroom. The work students do is engaging and challenging. She has high expectations of all learners, and it makes students want to rise to their full potential. Students don't want to miss a day of school because she creates such a wonderful learning environment for everyone. My son loves school this year. He is challenged with hands-on, inquiry-based learning. He has renewed passion for reading and is excited to go to school every morning. Mrs. Stagel communicates learning objectives with parents on a weekly basis, so we always know what is happening in the classroom. More importantly, my child feels he can explore, take risks, and challenge himself in a safe and caring learning environment. Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Mike. All right, moving on, item 3.2, we have a presentation on Project Lead the Way.
I think Mr. Poole's going to kick them off, and then we'll have several groups for you, Mr.
We have a lot of students here tonight. It is my pleasure to get to introduce a lot of people who will be talking about the Project Lead the Way engineering silo that we have throughout K-12 at Midland Public Schools. We do 4 modules for all K-5 students in Project Lead the Way. Any school that has 2 or more modules per grade is eligible for something called the Distinguished Project Lead the Way School. All 6 of our elementary schools did earn that this last year, so that is something to commend all of them on. We have a Robo-Builders class in middle school that Mr. Sperling is not able to make it tonight because of the incoming 9th grade night at Dow High. We have an Intro to Engineering, which Mr. Lass teaches at Midland High and Dow High School. He also is at the incoming 9th grade night at Dow High. And we have a Principles of Engineering class taught by Mr. Richard. He also is at the incoming 9th grade night at Dow High School. So you have a lot of students who are ready to give a presentation. I think they'll have a clicker of slides coming pretty soon. But we're going to start with 1st grade, 4th grade, middle school, the intro class, the principals class, and I believe there's even a slide on the principals presentation about the capstone class, which will be coming next year. So Sarah Cooper gets to start it off.
My name is Hudson. I am a 1st grader at Central Park. We use the design process to solve the problem that the sun was too bright and they needed shade. We helped them by building shade. We made My model was 4 cups. Foil for the sides and cardboard for the roof. My favorite part was thinking about how to solve the problem. My name is Aria, and I am also a first grader at Central Park. We use the design process to solve the problem of being lost in the woods. We fixed it by using light and sound to communicate. We walked to Barstow Woods to test our models. My model was heard by the other group, but it could not be seen. My favorite part was building my model.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having us tonight so we can share how excited and engaged our 4th graders are. We are the Siebert 4th grade team. So my name is Sue Schaefer. I'm Laura Kiffmiller. And I'm Sarah Wright. And we thought there's no better way to share the joy the children feel when they're engaging in the engineering process than to share pictures. So we have a slideshow for you along with some quotes from the students and then a few hands-on items that they've made.
So our first one was a demo. We started off with showing students one of our vehicles that the teachers had built, and it has an egg on it. And we send the egg down this ramp, and I will show you what happens.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just send it.
So as you can see, the egg completely shattered and it spilled all over in the plastic bag. So their task at the end of this unit is to create a design that will keep the egg safe.
Here's the car that they start with, and then they make a design, a restraint system for their car.
So we start with some articles that we read and learn about potential and kinetic energy, and then we go into a really cool skateboard demo where they get to learn about kinetic and potential energy. So again, we have a video of them engaged in that here. So you can kind of see the skateboarder moving across their screen. So they have a lot of fun with it, and they actually beg to do this in their free time.
Yes. Yes.
That's the
Student. They're very engaged. They're so focused as they work on building. I think in this picture they're working on building their car, or they also have a pendulum to build, which again talks about the potential and kinetic energy, depending on how high up they raise their pendulum.
Oh, yeah. And the VEX kits are really great for them. They can't wait to get into them. They're big boxes with thousands of pieces of all sizes of plastic items, wheels, axles, all kinds of things that they get to use to build their vehicle. Or pendulum. And so they have the Chromebook with the program on it that they have to use to follow the directions. They use the engineering process, and it's real fun. By 4th grade, they're quite independent problem solvers. We have them working together in groups, and really, they all shine in this program.
So then here we're testing the potential and kinetic energy with a ramp and how far it goes down. And then this next slide is just a video of them sending it.
2, 1.
So they get really excited to see their car in action and see something that they've built that actually works and can function. So that's really cool.
And here, they have 2 cars on the tag board ramp that we've created and taped onto chairs. And they start a car on each end, and then they count down again, 3, 2, 1. And then they come down and watch the collision. And they have different variables. Both cars start all the way up at the top. One car starts 8 inches down. One car starts at the bottom. The other they have a lot of variables that they go through with this one.
So I'll just show one of the videos here of the car at the bottom, so a standstill car, and then a car coming down the ramp. And it is in
I
slow-mo.
was going to say, is this slow motion? They love the slow motion, though, because they could then really see what happened.
Whoa.
And then the last part is they have to take a problem, which is solving for the egg and keeping it safe, and they go through the design process. So they ask a question, explore, model, evaluate, and then explain why it worked. So here's some pictures of them creating their design and celebrating their successes.
And they were really happy that Mr. Schroll was there to watch some of these. And so this is a really big deal for them because this is just a plastic egg, but they use the real thing. And so they work tirelessly together to get their car just so, and they can only use a certain amount of supplies from this little box. And so there you can see those who are sending their car down are just hoping that that egg stays safe.
And then we weren't able to have any students here with us tonight, but we did get some testimonials from some students, so they're kind of fun to read, so I'll read one of them. I think that PLTW collisions are really cool because we get to learn about cars. Here are some reasons why I like PLTW so much. 1, we get to make cars. 2, we get to learn about inventors like Henry Ford. 3, I personally love learning about kinetic and potential energy. And 4, I really like the skateboard simulator.
One fourth grader said at Siebert, what I think of PLTW is that you get to brainstorm your ideas to create and explore. You also get to try different things and see what other people did in their projects. You also get to work as a group and see if you can make your idea better and see what you are capable of. This is a great way to learn.
And another student said, I think that PLTW is a subject that is fun and sometimes full of laughter. I'm not so sure about friction, but I can learn. PLTW makes science really fun. I'm really excited about the project when we make seat belts for eggs. Definitely need to tell my grandma about this just to protect her. Love PLTW, and I would be devastated if we stop doing it. In conclusion, I hope you have a great day because it's a great day to be a bulldog. Thank you so much for making time for us to share about the program and our children. And we thank you for all you do for our district and the tireless volunteer hours you spend helping our children and our whole district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, quick question. Did all the eggs make it?
Not quite.
But then they could still write, why not?
Hi, I'm Connor Janesko. I'm a JMS student.
I'm Bryson Stefanich. I go to Jefferson Middle School as well.
I'm Trenton Spurd, and I go to Northeast Middle School.
I'm Jonathan Claridge, and I go to Northeast Middle School.
Today we're talking about 8th grade robotics in Mr. Sperling's class. We call it Robo Builders. In Robo Builders, we learned about mechanical gears. Speed and torque. And the systems we use to run our robots is called C++, and it's really fun.
We learn through the APB process. We get a project from Mr. Sperling, and he gives us a model and a couple examples, and then he goes through, explains how it's supposed to work, and then we can get our own shot at it.
So we've ran into a ton of problems through the way. Like, a lot of us wanted to like bash into each other and stuff, and he said no, but like some of them wanted to, and there were a lot of challenges through the way.
Our current project, we're working on simplifying robots. We have a couple right there. We have some criteria you have to follow. The size limit, 12.5 by 12.5 inches. You can only have 4 motors, and you do 30 seconds and try to get the other person out of the circle. Yeah.
That's all. Yep. If we want, we can show you some of our robots if we bring them around.
Yeah, please do.
Please.
So,
like our problem
Very good. Show these guys.
Us to like lift us up, so then we would only have one power flow backwards. And we were trying to make sure so we couldn't get underneath. So we put
so this is the
then it's
brain. That's
barely
what we use
scratching
to
the
run the
ground.
motors.
Okay.
The motors underneath, which is one of the problems we ran into, because
We
this
did
is
run
exactly
into problems
12.5
with
by
speed,
12.5.
suggested that we
On the
do
inside
not have
of
them
the
out
gears,
on
it
the
increases
inside
torque,
of
which
them
makes
on
it
the
push
outside.
harder.
And
And another problem we actually ran
we
into
put
is we were
these in
using
to
too
make it
small of a gear,
more
so the
torque
wheel was actually
and more
running into
power.
this shaft.
Basically,
Resize.
Okay.
So who's robot one?
The engineer.
Solve the problem?
You might want to hire.
tomorrow.
Nice job, guys.
Yeah, it did solve the problem.
Are these rubber or just hard? They are like rubber. I wonder if they'll have plastic.
These are cars, so the brain, this is what we actually program. And then these are the motors that we run, and they turn this gear, these gears.
Okay.
And that increases torque, so when it's pushing on the other robot, it will push more.
It must be four-wheel drive then,
Robots.
because it's got torque on each one.
You guys show these
Nice.
3.
All right, so we have our, so it's a challenge to push the other person out of the circle.
Oh, okay.
So
And you've got yours inside and they have theirs outside.
So
So it's just a different design.
Push their robot.
So is that your
Wait,
guard?
so that when
shield to keep it from
increase
flipping over?
traction. And then
Which way is the front of
turning
the robot?
Oh,
okay.
The pushing power and to do the robot so that you can push the other robot easier.
yeah, so this is mine.
Okay.
We actually had
So how do you flip
another
over
one.
your head?
Yours has so much weight on it to the point where I
Or how do
can't
you, I guess you want all of them using
Yeah,
this
and we just went
right?
for torque and speed. They
What do
went
you,
for
how do you
That would be cool, right?
but then we put ours when we were like before the bus ended.
So where'd you get the additional 8?
How big is the circle?
So there's a lot of parts, and so we kind of just
Add it up.
built it up, and then also, just in case people are trying to flip it over, eventually you'll have to
So you line up
around the
and then.
part, and so that also adds volume.
Okay.
Very cool. Very nice.
Do you drive it?
Nice. Thanks.
No, you just, so the C++ is running, it's like, you press the button, it'll wait 5 seconds, so you get it by the robot, and then it'll start the motors, and then it will wait, so.
I know.
And then the shot will go over the middle of the circle.
Okay, that's great.
Thanks, guys.
0.
Hello, I'm Aiden Porter. I'm a freshman at Midland High, and we're here to talk about Introduction to Engineering Design.
I'm Joseph Jackson. I'm a junior at Dow.
I'm Hannah Monville. I'm a 9th grader at Midland High.
I'm Matthew Staudiker, and I'm a sophomore from Midland High.
I'm Scott Gilbert. I'm a senior at Dow High.
I'm Trinity Lorenz. I'm a senior at Dow High.
Okay, so an instant design challenge, that's something we do in between like units in IED class. So basically, we come into class, we don't know we're gonna do it the day before, and he puts us in groups and gives us a scenario, and we have to use the engineering design process to basically come up with an idea to how to solve the scenario. Like one time we had to make a bridge out of just paper and tape and little blocks. So it's a lot of brainstorming and problem solving and reconstructing, testing, and usually it's not the ideas that you think are gonna work ahead of time. It's kind of very creative and all messy and put together that usually end up the best.
It's like real life.
These are our engineering notebooks. With these notebooks, we form a basic knowledge for sketching and 3D modeling. It serves as sort of a transition into CAD modeling with a computer, and makes the transition a lot less smooth, more smooth, and it gets us familiar with dimensioning and yeah.
So another thing we really focus on in this class is sketching. And one of the main reasons why we focus on sketching and do it a lot and try to improve it is that we learn that it's really good for communicating your ideas with other people. And if you're able to like effectively communicate your ideas through sketches, then it can help other people build ideas, and it's just better.
Another thing with sketching that I found really interesting, I've never taken an art class or anything like it, but I found that after this, sketching and being able to draw and accurately depict things in real life, I've seen like significant changes in the way that I can draw and show other people what I'm thinking.
Another big part of IED class is 3D CAD modeling. We use a program called Autodesk Inventor, and we use it to take the drawings and other designs that were shown on the last slide, and we use Autodesk Inventor to basically build these in a 3D model, and then we use them to assemble parts and assemblies. Like just recently, our exam that we've been working on is we have to build an entire train in this program and then put it all together, and that's pretty difficult, and it really works on problem solving, trying to figure out how to make that part and how to make the features there. And when you're able to figure out what to do, it feels great.
So when you're all done making the model, what you do is you put it on a sheet and mention it and make specifications. So if in a sense you were working for a company, this is the final step you would have to make before you send it to be manufactured. So you have to be very specific in your dimensioning and where everything goes. For example, in the one shown on the screen, these are the parts for the miniature train model, all dimensioned and shown how to make. And the last one is how to assemble the final train model.
So in the second semester, we have a big project coming up where basically we build a small contraption where you wind a small crank and then it moves multiple parts around. I'm not sure how the video works on there, but basically what it is they wind the crank and then the steam comes out of the teapot and the lid pops off like it's boiling.
And the cool thing was this, I took RoboBuilders last year and I recognized some of the parts, like we have to make our own cam and follower, which I got to work with last year in RoboBuilders. So that's kind of how the steam comes out. When you crank it, the cam moves, and it kind of has like a string or a stick attached to it, which pushes out the steam. Cotton ball.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Shelby Smansky.
Hi, I'm Rico Setiowan.
And I'm Jack Coppins. And this is the Principles of Engineering presentation.
How do you go next slide?
So in this class, we do a lot of learning by doing. For example, the first thing that we did is trebuchets. We learned how to apply physics in order to build the most efficient trebuchet. Second, we did truss design, and we incorporated this into our bridge design, which helped us build the strongest bridge. And we also did material testing with this because we got to learn what materials were the strongest and what we could best use to build the strongest bridge. Currently, we are doing robotics, and in robotics, we are learning some basic coding.
So yeah, we have a huge emphasis on learning by doing because, you know, practical skill is more important than anything else. So elaborating on our first project, the trebuchet, we got together in groups to build a catapult trebuchet, which is a device that launches projectiles. I'm sure most of you probably know. Through that unit, we learned concepts like mechanical advantage, through the use of levers and efficiency and torque. So this is our first introduction to a practical project. And yeah, that's not such a great video. We're engineers, not cinematographers. Then we moved on. We talked about some computer-aided engineering, or CAD. In the top picture, what you see is a program called Fusion 360, where it runs a physics simulation on a part or on a stress member, and you can tell the program which parts you want to constrain, which parts you want to enact a load on, and it'll actually decide which parts of the beam are most crucial in a load bearing scenario. So you can see how that is propagated in the picture. And in the bottom picture, that's the MIT. I'm going to raise this up. In the bottom picture, you see our other program, the MIT Bridge Designer. This is really useful for us because we could design bridges and also simulate the forces on our bridges. You know, the different tension and compression forces, which is really important because we use different materials for a tension-bearing material and a compression-bearing material. So next.
So in the Principles of Engineering class, our big emphasis is on teamwork. And as an engineer, most of them work in teams, so we try to make it as real life as possible. As Henry Ford has said, coming together is a beginning, staying together is a process, and working together is a success.
Mm-hmm. This is in the wrong order.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's okay. Whatever. So back to our units. This is our truss testing unit. Is basically designing a truss in the most efficient way possible by taking how much load it could hold and dividing it by the weight of the truss itself. This is a video of me actually with my truss. And
wait. Keep going.
And you can see we tested to the point of failure, just like in real life. And we analyzed that data, figure out how much force it held, and did all the calculations, and we had a little competition in class.
Nice.
I pretty much won.
There you go.
So next year at Dow, there's the new class that's going to be Engineering Design and Development, which is when students are going to take they're going to be able to build their own solution and research and design and test to make theirs the best, and they'll present it to a bunch of engineers and we'll try to see out of the whole class who has the best design or model.
This is what engineers usually do in real life too. They bring prototypes in front of a bunch of investors and then try to present their idea. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
I think you got your first year of engineering school done. Expect you to graduate in 3 years from college.
My parents hope so too.
This guy is super smart and he's hilarious.
I have a question. So what have been some of your biggest challenges as you were going through this class?
I think our biggest challenge was organization within the teams. Because this is the first time where in an engineering class we've all been put in a team together and we've had to collaborate and share ideas amongst each other. And for example, in the trebuchet unit, I knew there's a lot of miscommunication between our group members and what we wanted to do, and that also translated over to the truss unit. But as the units went on, we got better and better at it, and I feel like that's the most important part, is that we're improving, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can you tell us about some of the weight that, I saw a picture of a bridge initially. What was the poundage that it was able to support?
On the simulation or on
whatever the picture looked like, it was real life. There were a bunch of weight plates stacked.
It was, that one, you're talking about the top right picture, right?
Yeah, is that one of the bridges that you guys created to?
Oh, no. That was actually part of our material testing unit where we were testing like a 2x4 in a configuration of it lying down or standing up, and the difference of how much weight it can hold.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, what'd you find out?
Okay.
Oh, we found out that putting it vertically is a lot stronger, and we had trouble breaking it.
Did you incorporate that into your bridge design?
Yeah, because by doing that, let me show you in the truss. You can't really see clearly in my truss design, but me and a lot of other people, for example, we double layered the top section of the bridge because the top section is going to experience more compression, and so if we double layer it, it's like putting a 2x4 vertically. You can hold more weight.
Nice.
And yeah, that's the application of that.
That was a great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you saw our elementary all the way through to high school Project Lead the Way, and if you remember, that was part of our STEM strategic plan that Brian authored for us a few years back, and so we're finally at full implementation. And we probably should make sure we mention our funders, and so Dow Chemical and our three major foundations funded this for us for the next, for over 10 years, so we're probably year 4, I think year 4, Penny? Year 4 of that process, so good stuff.
Yes. Big thank you to the funders.
Yes.
Absolutely. This is a wonderful opportunity for our students and for our schools.
It is amazing how practical the classes are, and it's just awesome to see, and obviously a great environment that they have fun in.
It's fun. And I know the fourth grade stuff is sinking in because Connor brought that skateboard simulator home, and he and his siblings played it, and the entire way up north, he was asking about potential energy and just going on, and they built ramps in our basement to crash.
You were able to answer all of his questions.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Kinetic and potential
The
energy.
chairlift is potential energy, and going down is kinetic.
Yep, it's really impressive to watch them learn and grow and how they absorb all of this information.
It's so rewarding to see the excitement, in the videos, the kids that were here and their presentations. That was really nice.
They might be able to help out Michigan and their bridges in the future, so.
There you go.
Go ahead, Penny.
I just wanted to point out to the board that while you saw the clear thread of engineering all the way through K-12, Project Lead the Way is more than engineering. There is also a thread of biomedical science as well as computer science. And although maybe not highlighted in tonight's examples, the elementary portion interweaves those three disciplines in most of their projects. The middle school offerings certainly highlight biomedical and computer science, and then once they get to the high school, there are those three tracks. So I just don't want you to leave thinking that Project Lead the Way is only engineering. It is also biomedical and computer science.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're on to item 3.3. This is an action item, bond construction bids. And Mike or Brian?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So tonight we bring before you 4 bid packages. This completes our bids for our summer work that's coming up in a few months. Bid package 2203 is middle school gym renovations, which includes things such as floor refinishes, paint, backboards, padding, bleachers at Jefferson, a real good facelift for our middle school gyms, which are sorely in need of that. Bid package 2204 is middle school classroom technology, which includes projectors, the cabling, marker boards where applicable. 2206 is going to change the face of the Dow High front entrance, something that we're really looking forward to. It's a really creative design that we think is going to add a lot of aesthetic value and functionality to the Dow High front entrance. And then also finally, bid package 2207, which is the Dow High controls, which is going to help us get better controls and efficiency with the new air handler units that we've put in over at Dow High. Total award between the 4 bid packages, 203, 204, 206, and 207, is just over $1.9 million.
Okay. All right, at this time, I will accept a motion to approve.
I move to approve item 3.3, bond construction bids, 2207, 2203, 2204, 2206, and 2207.
Support. Moved by Pam, support by John. Do we have any discussion?
I had a couple questions. Brian, how the bid packages were presented, you have it broken down by school, Northeast, Jefferson, Dow High, and Midland High. Is there any consideration to separating any of those instead of a one lump sum for all 4 combined together?
Sure. One of the things that we rely on our construction manager for is to be the expert in grouping those together in certain ways to try and maximize what our benefits are. They also take a look at the company's reputation, the amount of work that they can handle. We actually have Mr. Vanderpool with us this evening, who was the really mastermind behind these bids. So, Rick, do you have any comments on that question?
A lot of the reasons, Brad, that we put them together like we did is when they're too small, we really struggle to get the people to bid them. I found that a lot, like even with our really big excavators here in Midland, some of them wouldn't bid the tennis courts and that because it was too small. So, you know, based on what I've been getting for good bids and good participation, I package them that way. And even like the gym package includes painting for some Dow High and Midland, fixing the graffiti, again, to make it a more attractive package, get better prices.
Okay. So I guess my question was, in painting, is it a big enough package with separating the middle schools from the high schools? Because you have a separation between 2 contractors where one contractor was lower for the 2 middle schools, but he was higher than the other guy for the 2 high schools. But it would be a savings to the school district if you were to separate those by the junior high or the middle schools and the high schools.
With past history, when we've separated them like that, they've indicated to us that they don't want to bid it that way. If they're not going to get a big enough project to make it worth their while, they won't even bid to us. So that's why I did package it to what the industry has asked me to do so that, you know, they would bid. So even though I could have saved a few dollars splitting it out, I might not have that because they would have said, okay, if you're going to split it, I'm not even going to bid it. And I have had that on a couple of occasions.
Okay.
So I had to make it big enough to make it attractive.
Okay.
And as you know, we talked to vendors beforehand, trying to solicit to make sure they get in bidding, and we hear those kind of comments and figure out how we're going to bid package those. With the amount of work that's out on the market right now, packaging it to make it large enough worth their time is essential. And we're doing very well. And so if you noticed in there, last year we heard right up north to us, and I won't name the school district, they were getting 1 to 2 bidders a class. We were to the market before them. Our packaging was better. You had multiple vendors, and we continue to be under budget overall on all of the projects. So.
That was going to be my comment, is that we have seen a lot of bids coming back. A lot of people bidding on the project. I like the idea of saving us money, that they have come in low. And the key terms that I picked up here was functionality, improving functionality, and improving our efficiency of running our buildings, which is going to be a safe situation for our district.
Everything he just articulated is exactly how we do it in the private industry. I mean, and to build on that, I ran our engineering department and was responsible for exactly what he's doing, is there were a number of times when contractors in the area, I couldn't even bid, and I would just have to take it out for T&M, and that was all I could do was preferred rates, because the market is tough to get people to bid on projects. So frankly, I'm kind of surprised that we're getting as many bids as we are, so.
We've been aggressive out there. These were bid early, and that's why we split, if you recall. We got one ready early and out to the market second. And remember, there's a lot of work behind that with getting the architect to move, design, ready to bid.
Does that answer your question, Brad?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing a great job, Rick. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on 3.3? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay, next action item is 3.4. We have maintenance transportation bid.
Yes, sir. Thank you. A couple of board meetings back, we brought to you a bid for the roof repair for the maintenance and transportation building. This is the second part of the two-phase project to really revise our maintenance and transportation building. This bid that we're bringing before you tonight really is for the exterior portions of the building, including painting, lettering, block repair, and door replacement. So we had to get the roof done first to make sure that everything was safe and sound so we could get on to this next phase of the project. We did solicit bids, and if you examine the bid tab, you could see that all three of the vendors are within a couple $1,000s of each other, which is credit to Mike Mogenberg and the specifications that he provided. So very competitive process, but we do recommend the awarding to Wobig Construction for $79,118, the low bidder for this project for the maintenance and transportation building.
And again, this comes from our capital improvement fund.
Sure.
Okay.
I move to approve item 3.4.
Motion by, I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
To award the project to the low bidder, Wobig Construction, for $79,118.
Support that.
Motion by Pam, support by Mary. Any discussion on 3.4?
It's long overdue. That
It really
building
is.
needs an update, so I'm so happy we're getting to it.
Okay. All in favor of 3.4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, action item 3.5. This is the 2019-2020 budget amendment number 1.
Yes, sir. Yep, thank you. We appreciate that. A quick reminder that public school budgets, they're not advisory in nature, but they're an accounting of the sources of the public funds that we procure and also the uses of them. And so when there's significant changes in those sources, the revenues and expenditures, it's appropriate to amend that budget. This is a little bit earlier than we typically do a budget amendment. If you've been on the board for a while, you're used to budget amendments coming to you in March. But this year was a little bit abnormal, not abnormal from history in itself, but abnormal from the past 8 years where we did not have a budget come July 1st. And because of that, there was a lot of speculation in our per pupil revenues, and there was not solid enrollment numbers and applicable categoricals that go along with that as well. Because there was such major fluctuations, we thought it appropriate to bring you a smaller budget revision before our bigger revision in March. So we're bringing to you a budget revision now that reflects updated enrollment numbers, what our actual state budget was, what the actual categoricals are, and when we come to you in 2 short months, we will have for you a little bit more refined of a budget that includes audited enrollment numbers, federal grant amendments, and also includes adjustments that we've made to our departmental budgets. So this is a little bit lighter of an adjustment, but again, because we didn't have solid numbers coming into our original, we felt it best to do some adjustments now to refine where our budgets are. The factors that typically affect these budget adjustments for us, of course, our primary driver is student enrollment, and our preliminary numbers are very positive for MPS. We had budgeted 7,651 as a blended count, and we are at 7,721, which is up about 70 students right now. This is not yet an audited number. There's always fractions of FTEs that come into play with kids that move in and kids that move out. So we do get minor adjustments, but we usually don't see large fluctuations. With those increased students come increased revenues, but there's also corresponding expenditures that come with that as well too. The students don't always come to you in nice, neat packages where it's all in certain one grade level. Usually that's interspersed throughout the district, which causes us to have to increase services. So you'll see those reflected tonight. As I said as well at the beginning, our state funding numbers, we didn't have those dialed in, although Mr. Cooper and Mr. Sharrow did guess pretty darn close. We guessed that we were going to have a per pupil revenue of $8,631 per student. We were off by $20, but that $20 was to our favor, so that is going to be a positive adjustment. And then I think one of the more complex things of the budgets that Mr. Cooper has explained to you throughout the years is our local revenue factors, personal property taxes, development zones, brownfields, tax appeals. When we are adopting the budget in June of last year, we're taking our best guess estimates at what those are going to be, and when our actual property values come in and we do some of our adjustments, we dial those in a little bit closer as well. Grant funding is always a significant factor, but really won't apply for our federal grants in this adjustment, but you will see some of our state grants. And then also a large variant item is our special services revenues. A lot of those monies flow through the federal level, they flow through the state level, through our ESA, they go through a washing machine formula and eventually trickle on down to us, and so there's varied reimbursements. And then finally, one of the biggest adjustments you're going to see is our budget variance. When you adopted the budget back in June, we were guessing at what our variance levels were going to be. Once you go through an audit, as Yo and Yo presented to you, our actual variance numbers come in, and that will impact largely what your general fund numbers are. And so you'll see those reflected this evening as well. In terms of major revenue changes in whole, we have revenue changes of about $3.1 million. I've highlighted for you here really the most major revenue changes. I've listed things that are over $100,000. At the lower end of the range, you have a change in revenue at the very bottom of an increase of about $130,000 in our enhancement millage. That's more than we expected because of the closure of the academy. We thought that the academy was going to be taking some of those revenues. When that closed, we were able to add those back into our budgets. But our largest impact in major revenues, if you see at the very top, is the money that's directly correlated to our increase in students. An increase of 70 students blended count is about approximately $600,000 in increased revenue, and that comes to us through a variety of forms, through our foundation allowance, but also through the offsets that come with taxable values as well. We did see a significant increase in our retirement offsets. That's those 147A, E, and parts 1 and 2 numbers. Those are the dollars that the state gives to us to help offset some of the retirement costs that come in. That's one of the things that's very volatile when it comes to developing budgets. We never quite know what those offsets are going to be, and that's one of those things that we really kind of are always a little bit nervous about. It's a flow through of money that is a blessing for us, and we always kind of live in fear that those categorical adjustments can come and hit us hard. If they ever were decided to be taken away, you could see that an impact of $650,000 would be a pretty big hit to us here in MPS. I talked about special education cost reimbursements, and we're up in that about $200,000. That's largely due to an increased number of special education students that we have in our ranks as well too. And then those four items that you see starting at section 24 and ending at the special education ESA transfer, they all have a C next to them, and that C means that there's a direct associated cost in the budget. So really that's an inflow of money that has a direct outflow as well too. Our section 24 dollars are for our JCC. Those come into us from the state to help offset those costs, but they directly flow out. 31A at-risk budget, that's the additional carryover that we didn't anticipate having in our original budget. And then a chunk of money that I know you're going to learn more about in an upcoming meeting is 31N6 and 31N12 dollars, and these are new dollars to us here in MPS that are directly for student mental health services, and I know that Penny and her team are going to be giving a presentation on that coming up soon, but those were dollars that we didn't anticipate, but they do have a direct cost associated with them, so we're going to take them in, we're going to procure the services, and that money's going to outflow as well too. So again, in all, about $3.12 million in increased revenues. As I had said before, when you have increased revenues and you have increased students, there's also correlating expenditures that go along with that as well too. And really the largest chunk of our expenditures came in really 4 categories. Category 1 was salary and benefits. That's directly correlated to increased FTEs across the gamut in terms of adding classroom teachers, but also adding student support services for our students. And we also have invested significantly into our capital projects fund. That allows us to do things like you just voted on a few things back, to be able to improve our facilities outside of the bond, your maintenance transportation roof, the signage and the paint block for that as well too. And we have a long, long list of capital projects that we maintain in the background, to the tune of somewhere between $3 and $5 million that we know that we're going to need over the next 3 to 5 years. So we need to keep siloing that money when we are able to do so. I pointed out the 31N6 and $12 and also the 31A as well too. So our total expenditure changes at this budget amendment is just under $3 million, coming in at $2.98 million. I do want to remind you something that I said at the beginning of the presentation. This budget amendment does not reflect changes within departmental budgets. So we know that there's going to be some adjustments within our maintenance and transportation budget. There are going to be some adjustments within our curriculum budgets as well too. Lori Holderby and I are working behind the scenes now to refine those numbers, and we'll bring those adjustments to you in March. We also do not have reflected in this our changes in our federal grants. That's Title 1A, 2A, 4A, and 1D. The reason that isn't reflected in there is Penny over Christmas break just hit the button on her amendments, which was a lot of work. And so by the time that we get all of those done, this was already well in the works. So we'll have those numbers reflected for you in the next amendment. A lot of the next amendment, you're going to see a lot of those type C items where there's direct inflow and outflow in the budgets. One of the things that I do want to point out in the budget amendment, when you really get down into the details of it, Mike has really set the vision for us when it comes to our adjustments, that when we do have increased revenues for the district, that there's 3 priority areas that we want to focus on. The first is we want to make sure we're focusing on student academic and social emotional supports. And when you take a look at the distribution chart there, you'll see that 65% of our increased expenditures are directly related to increasing student academic and social support, something that we think is critical. 2, we want to focus on continuing to have money for our capital improvements in the district to keep increasing our workflow on our facilities improvements. And then we also want to make sure that we're treating our employees correctly as well too, and we have dollars to be able to invest back into the employees that we do so. So our expenditures, 99% of them focused on those 3 areas, with 1% miscellaneous costs coming in with a bunch of different various items that were portrayed in the budget. Getting into real hard numbers, your budget revenues, as we pointed out on the a couple of slides back, our revenues are expected to be increased by about $3.12 million, with expenditures increasing at about $2.98 million. At the time of budget adoption in June, we had anticipated a deficit of about $1.9 million, and this budget adjustment reflects a deficit of about $1.765 million, which is actually a decrease in the amount of deficit that we are expecting. When Mr. Cooper built this budget, he built it at a conservative estimate of a 1.5% variance, and you could see the impact of that on our deficit. And so our anticipated shortfall at the June adopted budget was about $657,000, and this budget reflects a reduction in that anticipated shortfall to about $473,000. One thing that I'd like to point out to you is when we're estimating variance, it's really hard for us to dial that in, especially when you're dealing with a budget that has expenditures of anticipated around $86 million. Historically, MPS has had a variance somewhere in the 2 to 3% spot. We've done a little bit better than that in the past. For this budget to be balanced at this point in time, we would need a variance of 2.1%, something that we think is a very realistic place to be able to get to. At the bottom, I had talked a couple of slides back about one of the biggest changes you're going to see is our anticipated fund balance numbers. At the end of last year, we anticipated that our unassigned fund balance was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $12.8 million, and you're seeing a healthy adjustment up to about $16.2 million, and that's because of the difference in the variance between what was predicted in June and between what the actual variance was after the audit that was completed in July. So as a percentage of expenditures, that unassigned balance is about 18.9%. If you put assigned fund balance into that equation, we're at a 25.8% total fund balance as well, too. So in all, this budget shows an increase in revenues, an increase in expenditures. It also reflects to you that we have a very healthy unassigned fund balance and also a healthy assigned fund balance, and shows a significant increase in investment in student services and academic supports, also in capital projects as well too for the district. We will be amending, again, as I've pointed out, you'll see me again in March, bringing back to you a little bit more of a refined number. That will be the second of 3 adjustments, and I'll be back to you again in June to really dial in our numbers as close as we possibly can before the audit. It feels hard for us to be saying this right now, but we're really juggling a couple of balls in this end because we are already preparing for our 2021 budget developments. Once we conclude meeting with the departments for this year's adjustment, we're going to turn around in a few weeks and start talking about next year's as well too. Mr. Sharrow has pointed out to you in the Friday letters that the revenue estimating conferences have come out. Those look to be a little bit positive, so we're going to hope that those come through. We've also heard rumors that they're anticipating of having a budget for us, not in October, but hopefully in time for us to develop something for you that's a little bit more refined, which will not necessitate a need for a third budget adjustment in our typical cycle of 2. So we'll be working hard in the back end to keep refining these numbers, and we will be also working very vehemently to start working on next year's budgets as well too. So this evening, we're going to recommend the adoption of budget amendment number 1, and if you have any questions before you move on that, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Yes, sir.
We'll open it up to any questions.
Just to make sure I understood your comment on the 12 million, 12.8 million fund balance, thank you.
Yes, sir.
To the 16 that we're at now. So there was an interim adjustment,
So after
not an adjustment, but an interim information came in between those 2 steps.
So after your audit,
Okay.
and you heard that from, you might not remember from our auditor, there's always funds left.
Yeah, okay.
And let me give you a little explanation on that. We try to keep that variance as low as we can. But one of the things required by the state is your larger budget numbers, you cannot ever have a negative in there. So you can't have a negative in your savings and you're gonna move some checking over. We have to have a little bit in each category. So typically you have dollars come back to you in a fairly healthy amount. So that was not untypical, and it probably wasn't unanticipated by us either, but of course, being conservative, we always hold our breath, make sure that number looks that positive.
Right. And as I pointed out, this is built on a 1.5% variance, which is actually a little bit higher than we had typically previously built. We usually built on a 1% variance just to be on the conservative side, but because we're trending more toward the 2 to 3% range, we decided that 1.5 was a little bit more of a fair estimate. And each 1% variance is north of $800,000, so it adds up real quick when you're talking about a percentage or 2 points. So, yes, sir.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Typically, we've been, over the last decade, 1 to 4% per variance.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Brian. It is, really, it's hard to be anything but excited about looking at these and trying to remain cautious still, because all of this can change with the strike of a pen.
Well, I'll remind you always to remain cautious. We're due somewhere an economic slowdown. That'll affect some of that piece as well. And the other one is, as you know, bond expenditures are getting near the end. So there is a little benefit to the general fund in the sense that sometimes bond picks up some things that we'll have to pick up when it's gone, i.e. copiers, for example, that we're building that budget for, some technology. Someday you'll be back on purchasing your own buses through the general fund. So the other one I'll remind you is your salaries are at or near its low point. It may have been last year, it was a new low point, but with the very young staff, they'll begin to move up those steps, and each year they move up in steps how many, Brian, $1.5 to $2 million in just steps.
Yeah, steps and lanes is about a $1 to $1.5 million liability each year.
We're very confident still in the budget that we have and will bring you, but always, I think, we like to use the word slow growth.
I like the pie graph depiction of showing that 65% is support services and classroom instruction, which is where the school budget should be.
Sure.
You kind of paused after your salaries. I was going to wonder, are we getting paid?
We're all getting raises.
We're getting raises. Fantastic.
Yeah, we're gonna double our salaries.
10% of nothing is still nothing.
That's right.
I'll donate it.
Okay. And can I get a motion for item 3.5?
I move to approve item 3.5, budget amendments as stated by Mr. Brutyn.
Support.
Motion by Pam, support by Mary. Any further discussion? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say thank you for all, it's a lot of hard work to do that and all the people that are involved.
Especially credit to the business office as well, too. A lot of work behind these numbers, months of work on their end, so they do great work. We're blessed.
Yeah, it's a fantastic team doing tremendous work, and we all appreciate it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? None. Motion passes. Okay, next is information, item 3.6. This is Board of Education Appreciation Month.
I'm not sure I could have said it better than you did to start the meeting, but I'll add to that, and Brad's comment on salary. By the way, some boards do get a small stipend, but you are one that chose not to, and so we do appreciate that. I'm sure your community does as well. So you do this for the goodness of community service, and you do a great job of that. And I think after you all get elected, you realize it's not once a month, it's not twice a month, it's not 3 times a month. You live it daily. You probably get tired of inbox emails from us and all the information you get, but it is something we appreciate what you do. It makes our work conditions so good, and so we always try to recognize you in some way that'll leave a legacy, right? And so you have library books in front of you that I think each level will go to, and has your names usually go into the front of those covers, and will be in our libraries for our students. And our media specialist chose those books, if I remember right, Cindy. So very appropriate books for our students going forward. So thank you once again for all you do.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Okay, now we have item 3.7, which...
Scott, I just wanted to thank the kids for the wonderful cards that they made for each board member. And here I've got a message from, I believe it's a first grader. You rock. Thank you for Central Park. And another that says, thank you for keeping us safe. And we have great visuals, drawings, and it sure is appreciated to get a card from these students. It means a lot. Great drawings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice. I've got a card here from Hudson, who was one of our presenters tonight. Really nice young man, and it's always good it's a good day to get cards like this and feel appreciated. Anything else? Okay, so we have item 3.7, which is approval of the payment of school system bills for the month of November, is listed in the check registers prepared by Ms. Holderby in the total amount of $6,767,848. The distribution of obligations by fund is included in the documentation. And this was moved, item 3.7. Go ahead.
Make a motion to approve item 3.7. Support.
Motion by Phil, support by John. Any discussion?
I just had a couple questions. In the purchase orders, just as a reminder, when we have final and open is an open purchase order that you anticipate more expenses coming to that? Is that the classification or the designation of between open and final?
Good, right?
Yeah, an open purchase order can vary for a whole bunch of different reasons. Sometimes we'll do it with Lowe's, and that could be for carpentry supplies. So usually it's a typical vendor that we go back to for certain things. Yes?
Okay. are there any expenditures in here? Because there's a lot of capital things that we did that are some bigger purchase orders. Did any of those vary significantly from when we approved
No.
at our level?
So we never go over the amount that you approve. So if it's one we brought to you for your level of approval and they come in the way you are, we have never gone above that amount.
But there could be change orders and things like that they could change. So I just wondered if anything that in a change order value.
Yeah, so if you're referencing some of the ones that we had in earlier meetings, most of those are typically built into our departmental budgets that we are developing. As I just said, we're going to be developing those soon for next year as well, too. So those are really pre-vetted by us up front. And the first time that we do major adjustments to those are coming up actually in a couple of weeks when we meet with the department. So just case in point, there could be one where we have something with curriculum where we anticipate that that's what's going to be spent. And if it's something that didn't work or pan out that way when we meet with departments, then we can readjust those down. We never adjust them up without bringing them back. Sometimes they do get adjusted down, but we make it a practice not to have purchase orders that are open for above what the bid threshold would be. The ones that you see in here, if they are above that threshold, they're going to be service-based. And that's sometimes with EnviroClean and some of those other places where it's not a tangible asset
Services
to
don't
it.
need to come to you.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I was thinking more of some of the contractors that are in here because we approved these.
Yes, sir.
We absolutely went through that.
Yep.
So I didn't know if there was ever a significant change order or something that we should be aware of, any type of.
We would bring it if force is above the approved amount on the capital.
Okay.
That's of it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's accurate.
And then refresh my memory. I know we have some benefit that comes out of the purchase card transactions.
Yes.
And
Can
can you
state it,
refresh my
Brian?
memory on what we do with that?
Right back into our funds.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't remember the percentage, do you, Brian?
I don't have the
Lori-
direct
Lori would be
percentage,
better
but
at it.
yeah,
It's significant.
Very significant benefit. There's a lot of paperwork that goes behind it, and when I came into the seat, I questioned it and said, boy, I'm signing a lot of papers, but there's a significant rebate that comes to us as a
We can-
district, so.
Friday, I'll get it for you, what the percentage is and
Right.
about what it is each year, but it's a good dollar amount. Yes,
Yeah.
rebate back.
Okay.
Goes into general fund.
The other employee benefit that we have on that as well, too, is the time that it saves us in terms of procurement as well. So all teachers have a purchase card with a specified limit upon it, and that gives them the ability to instantly go get supplies if they need them. Also for our department managers as well, too. And so it does have a benefit for us in terms of procurement, where if someone needs a supply, they don't have to wait for a week process to happen. So as Mike said, we'll get that exact percentage back.
When purchase cards came in, most districts, including this one, and it was before me, this district put guidelines. So you have some guidelines and policies on use of those purchase cards.
And limits are specified based on what our budgets are as well, too. So each employee, based on what their departmental budget on, will have different variances. So the curriculum will have a different variance at a different teacher. And then sometimes we're blessed with donations where PTOs will want increased amounts to be put on teachers' purchase cards. So you won't see an exact equal amount on all purchase cards. Sometimes the PTO will say, our donation is please put an extra $300 in each individual teacher as well, too. So sometimes those variances
And they are
come in as well.
purchase cards. Sometimes you may get questioned by people who've seen teachers use them out now. The purchase cards is a set amount, it's not a credit card.
Yeah.
So both these reports have all the information exceeding $3,000. Is there benefit to us to utilize the purchase cards for more items that are in the purchase order line item to, if it's going to benefit the district as a whole financially?
Yeah. We actually make it a practice to try and push that as much as possible. You're on to it. But there's certain vendors that won't accept purchase cards because, on their end, when you accept payment that way, there's always fees that are associated with it. So our first line to a vendor is always, will you accept our purchase card? Please do. We get lucky sometimes with some of our larger purchases, and sometimes they'll tell us no, and it has to go through a check for that. So we try and push every order that we can through that venue because there is
The first thing Lori does,
revenue
we
for
use
us.
purchase cards first and then POs second.
Usually, there's kind of an unwritten rule of vendors start getting uncomfortable around 10,000 or more. But we've been lucky in the past where certain people will take larger amounts from us.
Okay. Last question is, I had a question about, and the Barton Mallow report doesn't really land anywhere in the summary report that we get. I don't know if, for future, if we could if we had a question on it, when do we ask the question? It's listed in our packet for reference, and it's for information, but if we had a question on it, is that part of?
Well,
it's listed right after the transactions, or should that be, should the question occur during the FFO meeting report? Or when would a question ask?
Right now.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we would have actually preferred it last Wednesday or Thursday, but
Sure.
yes.
And I just asked, just want to know if there was any update on the question that I asked from last month about the budgets for the schools.
Yes, as we said, February we would bring that to FFO and then to the board going forward. So we're ready, we've done our research, we're ready to go. But
Yeah.
We're gonna present it to FFO, not committing for your committee first of what we're ready to do.
Yeah, we have the next month's financial reports are actually sitting in a folder on my desk. We're trying to figure out the best way to be able to make that user-friendly for everybody within the system. So we're working on it.
Like, we have to work with Cindy on how.
Cindy and
to
Lori and
insert
I
that
are actually
into
going to
the
meet within a week
report.
here, and we're going to figure that out to be able, again, to get the information that you need in a user-friendly fashion.
Because as you saw, and I gave you that board book, Cindy finally was able to get a hold of the gentleman, and it's probably not going to solve how it goes into the board book, and it's not really ready yet as we thought, so. There are some things in there.
So you're talking about the information that I guess the question on the Barton Mallow was, last month I had asked, there's a difference between how money was moved around between the high school for our bond work.
Yep,
We can answer that one too. You want
Yeah,
that?
sure, no problem. Yeah, we actually had a meeting where we talked with Daryl about the executive summary on that. And really what it came down to, without getting into, specific dollars and cents, is that we have been blessed that our Midland High projects, we've completed all that we've said on the bond app, but they've come in under what we had anticipated. And at Dow High, we've actually added scope of work, which largely is due to the air handlers as well, too. And so as a part of that meeting, what we really want to do as we come to the conclusion of this summer's work is to re-examine where our savings were and how we can best reinvest where those savings are. We've been talking about a couple of Midland High projects to realize those savings and put those back into that facility, but we're not really to the point yet where we want to talk about the specifics because we don't have numbers back. But Mike may want to share a little more.
So we're basically, to sum it up in my words, we're under budget overall. We're under budget at Midland High. We've accomplished all the things we said we were going to do. Truth is, we've done more at every building. And we're going to show you those dollars. It's huge what we've saved and what we've added and done extra stuff. A little over on Dow High, but not necessarily because of bidding, because we added double scope.
Yes, sir.
And so what we have on our list to do is come back and say, okay, we should try to make sure we're fair to both sides of town, but at the same time not select projects just because you're trying to balance the politicalness of the two sides of town. So we know, for example, we may want to do the bleachers at some point. We shored up the grounds underneath the stadium. We certainly could go many more years to that, but if we're trending well, should we do the bleachers, for example, which needs to be done, plus it kind of evens out the expense of that. So we're going to bring that back to you. But the simple answer is, we didn't know the answers until we sat down and looked at it. Under budget, Midland High, very nice. Yep.
And fences.
Yeah, I would agree fences, Brad. And I
That's
asked
still my wish.
Daryl as well if he'd do a walkthrough. I don't think we need us, so he play French to design our elimination of fencing and that.
No.
Yeah, and so we'll do a walkthrough with Mike Mogenberg and Daryl and Rick out there and try to figure out what we can eliminate, replace, all those pieces as well. Yep. And we will revisit that with FFO and you if we continue to trend the way we are. My past practice, what we did in Algonac, is we came back and said, these are the list of things that still fit the scope of the original bond that we need and can still do with our savings and go out for another bid package. Right now, unless something changes, we'll have an additional bid package beyond what we originally thought.
That's fantastic.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mike. Does that answer all your questions?
Yep.
Okay. Great questions, by the way. Thanks, Brad. Okay, all in favor of approving 3.7?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 3.7 passes. Moving on, we're at number 4, request to address the board. Mr. Hackbarth.
Good evening, I'm Mark Hackbarth, as you know, 1910 Westbury Court, Midland. teacher Jefferson, parent of a freshman in Midland High, and president of the Midland City Education Association. Quick quiz for you. What do the Invisible Boy, Stick and Stone, and spaghetti on a hot dog bun have in common? I'll give you a clue at Miss Dastic, who got a Shining Star earlier, would be able to answer this question. They're all picture books that celebrate diversity, promote inclusion, and foster social emotional learning. And they also happen to be part of a group of picture books and books we're donating to the elementary schools in honor of School Board Appreciation Month. So each school will get 2 books. I'm going to email you sometime this week the titles if you want to check them out and read them. Yeah. They're picture books that are quick reads. So anyway, we would like, the teachers would like to thank you for the time, your dedication, your service to the schools, because you play an invaluable role in the success of our schools. So thank you again. Happy School Board Appreciation Month.
Thanks,
Thanks, Mark.
Getting me going there for a minute.
All right, we have, sorry? Oh, yeah.
Just ask if any.
Are there any others who wish to address the board? Okay. Thanks, Phil. Moving on, item number 5, curriculum instruction and assessment. That's Penny. Hi.
Yes, we do have item 5.1 for your action tonight. Those are major change proposals. You'll remember at the December 16th meeting, we brought for information 2 major change proposals. 2, which is very unlike us. We're happy to be focusing our efforts a little more. So those 2 proposals are the high school IB English proposal, which is really transitioning with the curricular changes and a name change for that course. And the second is a rather large one, which is our elementary literacy proposal. And the option A and B, just to refresh your memory, is 2 budget options, 2 cost options, dependent upon our calendar and when that's approved and whether we can use existing professional development time or if we will need to pay teachers after school hours to come in and have this learning. So the cost of these proposals includes all anticipated expenses such as curriculum development, and staff or student materials. Expenses for the total implementation are described in the proposal documents themselves, which are available in my office or from the proposer. If these proposals are accepted, the changes will be incorporated into the student enrollment procedures for this upcoming school year, the 2020-21 school year. And of course, upon approval, these implementation of these changes, will be dependent upon the final budget approval.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I move to approve item 5.1, major change proposals.
Support.
Motion by Pam, support by Lynn. Any discussion? Item 5.1. Okay.
I think everybody's going to be excited for especially the literacy at the elementary schools, and both options is a very thorough way to go about bringing that to us, so I thank you for that.
Anyone else? All right. All in favor approving item 5.1?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Next is item 6, actually item 6.1. We have facility finance and operation. These are the minutes from the January 13th, 2020 meeting. And Mary has the minutes.
We met on January 13th. Representatives from Barton Mallow presented bid results and awarded recommendations for the summer 2020 work. Those were brought to the board already, and we voted on that. Mr. Sharrow and Mr. Brutyn discussed the following topics with the committee: November financials. Revenues and expenses are proportionally higher due to the increased enrollment and corresponding services provided. Maintenance, transportation, and building improvements. Bids were solicited, the ones that we bid on tonight and passed through. The 2019-2020 Budget Amendment 1, which we had a lengthy presentation here and voted on. And again, the second amendment is scheduled to occur in March. Our next FFO meeting is Monday, February 3rd.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Item 6.2 is an action item, gives totaling $50,380. Brian?
Yeah, you'll see we have a very lengthy list of gifts tonight once we get past 6.2, but we are very fortunate to bring to you 3 gifts that require your action tonight. The first is $5,000 from Miss Shirley Ann Baker for the Midland High Yearbook and Focus, $10,180 from the Woodcrest Elementary PTO for teacher wish list items, and then finally $35,200 from the Arthur C. Frock Endowment Fund, and those funds are used for the vape sensors, the bid that we awarded at the last meeting. Those require your action tonight to accept.
Okay, thank you very much.
I make the motion that we accept the gifts totaling $50,380.
Support. Motion by Mary, support by John? I'm sorry, okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you very much. All in favor of approving item 6.2?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, item 6.3.
Item 6.3 is informational only, and you can see that we have a very, very long list of gifts. There's actually 26 individual donations from 23 different donors, totaling $20,173.20. And as has been our practice, we're going to acknowledge each of those individual donors and gifts on the credits to our presentation this evening. So we are very appreciative to each of those donors for their generosity. It's a great thing for us to be able to benefit from our very philanthropic community. And then if it's okay with you, I'll move right into item 6.4.
Please.
Thank you. Item 6.4 is a gift of items. You could tell by reading through those that it's Battle of the Books time. We have donations of the applicable texts for those from the Central Park Elementary PTO and the Grace A. Dow Library. Also, as you came in this evening, you probably noticed that we have a little bit of an upgrade out here, and all credit is due to Cindy Young and her design team for helping us procure those items, but it's a great blessing from the Dow Chemical Company to have their repurposed furniture. And then finally, we are acknowledging the Northeast Middle School clothes closet gift items from Miss Carol Moore Miller. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next up is Human Resources. This is chaired by John Lauderbach and Mr. Jaster. So 7.1, we have the study committee minutes.
Yep. The HR Study Committee met on December 12th of 2019. Mr. Sharrow, Mr. Brutyn, Mr. Kowalski discussed the following topics with the committee. First, non-affiliated employee wages. Wage scale adjustments for non-affiliated employee groups were presented to the committee for consideration and feedback. And on the topic of the Administration Center, alterations to the support structure at the Administration Center were presented to the committee for consideration and feedback. We will next meet on Thursday, February 13th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, John. Okay, 7.2. Jeff.
Thank you. This is for information. The following staff members have announced their retirement, and then the effective dates are listed. First, Miss Brenda Frazier. She's a teacher at Woodcrest, effective June 12th, 2020. Miss Colette Hertel, paraprofessional, Midland High School, December 20th, 2020. Ms. Edie Serrato, paraprofessional, Midland High School, June 11th, 2020. Ms. Elaine Toby, paraprofessional, Plymouth, June 11th, 2020. And then last but not least, Ms. Dawn Wallace, bus driver in the Transportation Department, June 11th, 2020. And if you like, I could continue with 7.3 as well.
Please.
And so for 7.3, the board and staff extend their deepest sympathy excuse me, to the families of Ms. Blasy Brown. She passed away December 30th, 2019. Ms. Brown was a bus driver in the Transportation Department for 26 years, and she retired in 1990. And then Mr. Thomas Campbell, he passed away on November 28th, 2019, and Mr. Campbell was a teacher at Adams Elementary for 28 years, and he retired in 1999.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is item 8, correspondence to and from the board. Those are identified in item 8.1 on the agenda. We don't typically read them off, do we? No. No, okay. Next is item 8.2 is a letter to the Board of Education from Smart Procure requesting information on PO vendors. Next is item 9, scheduled activities. All the upcoming board meetings are identified in the agenda. Of note, the April 20th meeting begins at 6:30. That is a budget workshop with a regular meeting to follow. Next is item 10, study discussion. With this, just have open the floor to the board if there are any points of clarification on anything we discussed tonight, or if there is anything that the board would like to see the administration study or review and bring back to us.
Could I say something?
Of course.
So Friday, I'll go down to Lansing for a Michigan Association of School Board Governance Conference, and the Michigan Association of School Boards is reaching out to us and other board members to look at what priorities should be for education in Michigan. If you remember, Governor Schneider had a top 10 and 10 initiative for Michigan, and our new governor is looking at that as well. So looking for ideas or thoughts on implementing new priorities for our state. So if you see in your inbox a note from Michigan Association of School Boards, if you'd respond, or if you get to me before Friday, I'll be going down to Lansing and sharing some ideas as well.
Thank you, Pam, and thanks for representing us. If there are no further comments, we'll turn it over to Mike for closing. Mike?
Okay, so board book premiere, we mentioned it earlier, so we think we'll be ready to go in September 2020. Looking forward to that. There's certainly until the pagination feature is functional, we can't move in our side of that going forward. You guys will have a little bit of learning there and see if you want to implement some of those or not, and how fast, because it looks like you can do some things differently in the follow feature, as well as electronic polling if you need to while you're voting. Dr. Beasley, some of you met her tonight when we met prior with some of our students on equity and diversity and inclusion, and she'll be helping us with that version coming from Dow. So we thank Dow, our wonderful partner over there, for helping us with that as well. MTSS, you've heard us talk about a little bit. I gave you a little brief statement from Penny in her Friday letter, but we're going to have her give a little more of a presentation with some of her coordinators here in the spring coming up, so you'll learn a lot more about our initiatives as we're getting ready to move forward on that. Brian talked about the budget and the budget cycle, and so last week or two ago, we heard about the revenue consensus. Good news, certainly, not maybe huge, but good news as it continues to go forward. If you heard the governor talk just a little bit locally, she's emphasizing, as you might expect, roads and education, which have been her two platforms. I think that's a positive for us as well, and her budget will come out in another couple weeks as well, and that kind of sets that ball rolling, if you recall. Then we'll wait for the Senate and the House and go to committee, and hopefully this year they are promising that they will have this ready for us sometime in June, and it is an election year, so I would expect they probably will fill that promise as well as we go forward, and that'll be good news for all of us. Last thing I'll mention is we had Kids Day at the mall a week ago. That's always a fun event, but it was, if you recall, it was the icy day, and attendance was somewhat low, but we made good connections there with some parents who are still kind of trying to figure out how maybe they enter into our school system with their first child, so that's always nice. That's it for me.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Last is adjournment. Can I get a motion?
That we adjourn today's meeting.
Support.
Motion by Phil, support by Mary. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Waited until the end.